This was the scene around the Supreme Court today. You'll see both the pro-life community who was celebrating, and you'll see the pro-abortionist who are anything but celebrating today.
And resistance across this country. Thousands, tens of thousands and millions rising up now because the future of women and girls and granddaughters and generations to come.
There you are. Some people happy, some people not so happy. But it's interesting. Within a few minutes, you had police in riot gear headed toward the Supreme Court. And I tweeted a little earlier today, why are they doing that? I mean, I think the people on the far left, the pro-abortionists, aren't they the peaceful, tolerant, loving, kind, gracious, respectful people who believe in law and order? And they're the ones who would never do anything untoward. So who's going to riot? I mean, the pro-lifers aren't going to riot. All the pro-lifers, folks like me, we're pretty happy about this court decision. So we're not going to take to the streets. We've not ever said we would. But the pro-abortion people, and particularly this group called Jane's Revenge, which is insane, have said they're going to take it to the streets. We're going to hear some other people who say the same crazy thing. Now, I want to go to Joe Biden. Joe Biden has given a speech just, an hour or so ago, and he makes some statements that, frankly, are head-scratchers. Here was the first one when he talks about the constitutional right to an abortion.
Today, the Supreme Court of the United States expressly took away a constitutional right from the American people that it had already recognized. They didn't limit it, they simply took it away. That's never been done to a right so important to so many Americans. But they did it. It's a sad day for the court and for the country.
Now, I don't know if Joe just doesn't know what the Supreme Court actually did, or he doesn't care, because he just reads what's put in front of him. But folks, on two fronts, this was a blatant lie. Number one, there was never a constitutional right to an abortion. In fact, if Joe would read the majority opinion from the Supreme Court, Sam Alito brilliantly laid out that was the very problem of Roe v. Wade, that there was nothing in the Constitution about abortion, and therefore, in 1973, this decision was wrongly handled. It was done as a political decision, not a judicial one. The whole point of the overturning of Roe v. Wade today was because the Constitution never even implies, much less explicitly says, that a person has a right to an abortion. For the first 188 years of this country, abortion was the domain of the states, because the 10th Amendment says that if it's not expressly in the Constitution, it is the domain of the states. That's where it was. But there were states that weren't as friendly toward abortion, so they go to the Supreme Court, just like they did with same-sex marriage and other things. But in this particular instance, 49 years ago, the Supreme Court created a right that is not in the Constitution and said, oh, you have a right to an abortion based on, let's see, what can we come up with? It's not there, so we're going to have to make something up. And they did. They made up privacy. And that was the basis upon which that whole decision was made. And the justices who made it later said that, it was pretty shaky. Interestingly, she wasn't on the court then, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is the heroine of the left, she herself said that this was at best a little bit on the suspect side legally. She was a strong abortion advocate. She believed that abortion should be legal, but she thought that the decision of Roe v. Wade from 1973 was very poorly constructed from a legal standpoint. So Joe Biden, when he says, first of all, that there was a constitutional right, there wasn't. And then he said it was taken away. No, it wasn't. It was simply given back to the states. Let me tell you something. In some states, there will actually be more abortions. New York and California. They'll probably have abortions, and now we'll have an entire industry where you can fly in and get your abortion. You wait for the advertising. Come to California, have your abortion. Other states like mine, Arkansas, abortion ended at 2 o'clock this afternoon. There was a trigger law in place. We had a constitutional amendment that I worked hard for in the 1980s to get in the Constitution. And then the statutory language was later put in that would guarantee that the moment the Supreme Court came down, abortion's over. So I think there's about 21 states that abortion ended with the Supreme Court decision. But there are a lot of states where there is no restriction, not even up to the moment of birth. So Joe was wrong. Either he was wrong and just doesn't know better, but he's the president, for gosh sake. He should know this. He was in the Senate for 50 years. He should know this. So I have to assume he either lied intentionally or the man is so completely out of touch with reality that he doesn't know. And if that's the case, that's worse than him lying. I'm used to politicians, even presidents, lying to me. What I'm not used to is one whose cognitive ability is so very, very destroyed that he can't make a cognitive decision or speech unless it is written down for him. Now, he made another comment in this speech today. Again, utterly untrue. It's about America being out there kind of alone, an outlier nation. Watch.
With this decision, the conservative majority of the Supreme Court shows how extreme it is, how far removed they are from the majority of this country. They've made the United States an outlier among developed nations in the world.
That's not true. First of all, I said how extreme we are in regards to the rest of the country. Joe must not be looking at the polls that are pretty consistent. A majority of Americans, almost 60%, favor some restriction on abortion. Even people who believe abortion should be legal, most of them believe it shouldn't be unrestricted, that you can go and have an abortion 5 minutes before the baby's head comes out of the womb. So Joe, when he says that this is an extreme position, he's full of it. Then he makes a statement that is, I don't expect anything out of the so-called fact-checker world. By the way, if you ever see that word, know one thing. What you're about to hear is probably as Larry Gatlin, my good friend, says, bovine droppings. That's the way he would put it. Fact-checkers are partisan hacks for the most part. But he said that we were an outlier nation. That is not true. I don't know if you realize this, but every European developed nation is far more restrictive about abortion than the United States. Did you know that we are more liberal on abortion than France? Let that sink in for a minute.